Okay guys, welcome back to another episode of Rotten Reviews. On this episode I take a look at the 2005 movie Doom with Dwayne Johnson, Carl Urban, and Rosamund Pike. It has a 19% on the tomato meter and a 34% on the audience score. Wow, all I can say is is completely rotten, and I'll say that from somebody that was a big fan of the original video game Doom that came out in the 90s. This is still completely rotten. It's rotten from every perspective, film perspective, video game perspective. There's just nothing, there's no reason why the makers of Doom, in particular ID Software, would want anything to do with this movie. Let's just leave it at that. As far as Dwayne Johnson and Carl Urban, they probably want nothing to do with this movie as well, unless they're still getting royalties from it. It's really rotten. It's really bad. It feels to me like something that could have been made in the 1990s. It probably should have been. It would have been more relevant. But in any case, we have Doom 2005, audience score 34%. I think it should have I think it should have a 19% on the audience score. I think 34% is too high. It stole a lot of its humor, which didn't land quite right. It stole a lot of the humor from Predator, the first Predator movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger. It also stole several scenes of this movie, were stolen directly from the movie Predator. It's very obvious when you watch this. Again, it's far less effective here, and it just makes you wonder why they stole this and it didn't work in this film at all. It's got bad voice dubbing. It's got scenes in which, for some reason, Dwayne Johnson, said his line in the scene. It didn't come out right, so they dubbed his voice over it, and it doesn't actually match the lips at some points, and that's very obvious. Now, they tried to cover up a lot of the bad stuff with how dark it is. There's a lot of sneaking around in dark corridors, which is, again, kind of like the game Doom, but again, the game Doom wasn't this dark. You could see everything. In this movie, they use a lot of dark corridors and sneaking around in dark corridors. And in fact, there's actually a big long sequence of this movie that devolves into a first-person shooter type perspective where the camera's on the end of a gun or nearly on the end of a gun, and it looks completely stupid and contrived, and you can tell they're trying to make it look like the original video game. And from the point of view of somebody that played the original Doom video game, it looks like shit. I'm just going to say that. Dwayne Johnson in one of his worst movies, let's just call it that. Let's go into the audience reviews and see what we can find. This is obviously still relevant and referenced today. We have a review from September 27, 2019, 3 big stars. This has about as much to do with the Doom games as a slice of bread has to do with a computer, and that they have nothing to do with each other. This movie is more Resident Evil, but it's still a decent enough action movie. The first hour is for sure very dull, but the FPS scene is definitely one of the most action-packed and memorable scenes in the movie. A fun time if you go in with an open mind. No, I disagree. I would give this just flat out peaking out at 1 star. Just 1 star, and I'm just barely giving it 1 star. It doesn't do the video game any justice. It's cringeworthy when it actually really tries too hard. It is more like Resident Evil. Now, the story in this movie is kind of similar to the game. In this movie, it's shown that on Earth, they have discovered a portal that somehow an alien civilization has left this portal on Earth. It leads to a similar portal on Mars, and where through this portal we have constructed an outpost or a research base on Mars using this alien portal, and everything's just fine, I guess. And then these scientists on this Martian outpost go missing, and so a team of soldiers, Dwayne Johnson and Carl Urban among them, are sent through the portal to Mars to find out what has happened. This is kind of similar to the video game. The video game is kind of like Space Marines have an outpost on Mars and they've opened the gateway to hell. Well, they've kind of done that in this movie too. They find find out that some doorway into hell has been opened on Mars, so it matches the video game in that regard. But that's where the similarities end. Tonally, it feels more like Resident Evil. There are practical creature effects. Not so much CGI like what we would call CGI today. This is why it feels more like something that could have been made in the 1990s rather than 2005. And when I look at this and it shows me that it is in fact October 21st of 2005, the release date, I found it hard to believe at first because I had thought this did come out in the 90s. That's just the way this seems to me. In any case, this is 1 star at best. Let's continue on. 3 stars. I don't think it's bad, but it's not great either. That's doing this way too much justice. For example, let's just say that The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, he just kind of transforms pretty rapidly into the bad guy in the film, and it's not explained why. He's not actually shown to be possessed by something. He just kind of decides to be a bad guy because of decisions that he doesn't like that the other characters are taking. And so Karl Urban is kind of fighting against The Rock, and we don't even know why The Rock became bad. He just becomes bad. That's it, really. There's nothing explainable. You could kind of use your mind to fill in the blank that somehow he's become possessed, but the movie doesn't show you that. It just shows him suddenly becoming the bad guy. Let's move on. 4 stars. Usually I get snooty when a movie mistranslates my favorite games or comics, but even so, this one's too much fun not to like, even if it's only barely related to the game. I'd completely disagree. Not only is this only 1 star at the most, but there's nothing fun here. It's just stupid. And it's not stupid enough where you can be, laughing out loud at it. It's not one of those, it's so bad it's good. There are a lot of those out there, but this isn't one of those. Even if you're drinking, this doesn't make you laugh out loud. It's just stupid and boring. So it's a complete fail. 2 stars, a movie that has nothing to do with the video game, where monsters are a huge danger but never as much as The Rock, who becomes naughty for an unspecified reason. The first-person part then is unnecessary and nauseating. The action scenes are rendered pretty well. Yeah, it doesn't do anything pretty well, I'm sorry. A lot of it's very dark, and there's practical effects, and again, The Rock just becomes bad. He becomes the big bad for no apparent reason. Yeah. 3.5 stars. This film is a guilty pleasure. Karl Urban, Dwayne Johnson, DeBoy Apre, and Rose Pike are good in this movie. Doom has a lot of issues, but it's a video game adaptation worth watching. No, it's not. I mean, if you're really into video game adaptations, just go with Resident Evil. You know, I'm not a fan of Resident Evil movies or the video game. I never got into either one of them, but I've seen the first 2 or 3 Resident Evil movies, and they're a lot better than this. Production value, plot, they're so much better. And I'm not even a fan of those. This movie shouldn't even be compared to those. This is complete crap. 3 stars. I actually appreciated them trying something new and going all in on it. The first-person shooting scene was actually kind of enjoyable. No, it was completely stupid. They mounted a camera on, the hilt of a gun, and you're just, looking at, going through tunnels and looking at creatures getting blasted by a, first-person shooter type gun sight view. It's what it is, and it's completely boring. And if you're a fan of the video game, there's nothing new to see here. It's just stupid. You get more enjoyment watching somebody play, watch an actual live stream of somebody playing one of the original Doom video games, or the newest of the franchise. It's far more exciting watching that than watching this movie. This is just completely boring. 3 or 4.5 big stars. Loved it, fun and funny. Watched it again and again. Still good. Yep. I just don't believe you. I don't know where you're coming from, and I don't believe you're serious. I'm going to take that as parody. 4 stars. Other than the terrible plot choice of a karma-based disease, the movie is pretty good. It's a classic cheesy sci-fi with a good basis in the Doom world, following the Doom franchise pretty well as a standalone, non-canon film. You've kind of contradicted yourself yourself there. On one hand, you say it follows the Doom franchise pretty well, and then you say it's a non-canon film. So which is it? Is it in the Doom franchise or isn't it? I don't think you know what the hell you're talking about. Like maybe you've been drinking before. You weren't drinking when you watched this, but you were drinking when you wrote this review. That's pretty clear. 1.5 stars. Some good references here and there, but overall, it's a bad movie. The references are really stupid. If you count a gun camera scene as a reference or a callback to the video game, it doesn't work. I'm sorry. There are ways that it could have, but it just doesn't. It comes across as stupid and boring. And if anybody's watching the movie and they haven't played the video game, they're really going to be wondering what the hell kind of shitty editing and what kind of viewpoint is this? It's really stupid. 1.5 stars. Hallways, the motion picture, seriously. The bulk of this movie's runtime is of people going through corridors, some of them so dark you can't tell what the heck is going on. P.S. Hollywood, stop giving Rosamund Pike work. She cannot act. All she has to do is stand there and scream, and she couldn't even pull that off. Okay, yeah, again, it's a lot of sneaking around in corridors. That's not real exciting. That is what the original Doom could have been if you were looking for a key card and you hadn't played it before and you were just backtracking yourself a lot in the corridors looking around for the key card to open the next door. Yeah, but otherwise, no, it's just bad. And Rosamund Pike, no, I've seen her where she works in other films, and she's certainly sexy when she needs to be. In this, she's just kind of forgettable. And in fact, I can't even recall a single thing she did in this film. I'm sorry, I can't. So forgettable. 3 stars. I used to play the video game as a kid, and watching the film, I think Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson does well in this cheesy sci-fi science fiction film. Watching it, I did not take it seriously because seeing The Rock was the main star and knowing it was based off of a video game, there was not too much to take seriously. Yeah, you can kind of tell just from the box cover it's going to be completely stupid. It's got a rather long runtime at 1 hour and 44 minutes. I have no idea why it has such a long runtime because I've seen this twice and I don't recall what happened during that runtime. 3 stars. I don't know where you're coming from on this. It's 1 star in the best possible case. Again, they just flat out ripped off stuff from The Predator and it didn't work. I don't know why they did that. You know, you could say that maybe it's kind of reminiscent of the first Alien film with the corridors, but no, it's mostly just a cheesy rip-off of The Predator, the first movie from 1987. Shameful ripoff. 5 stars. After Doom Annihilation trailer, suddenly this turned into a masterpiece. Your 5 stars, I'm going to take that as a parody of yourself. Doom Annihilation is a movie that's like a really low budget thing that's supposed to be coming out. There's a trailer out there online. Even as of 2019, it's not out. You know, it's not a released movie. It looks completely really stupid, like with small female protagonists carrying around a gigantic plastic Doom BFG weapon. It looks completely stupid and cringy, worse than this in every regard, with a shoestring budget and a foreign film to boot. You know, we'll see what happens when that comes out, but for now, this is the worst with something with the word Doom on the box cover. 2 stars. Not true to the game. Actually gave 2 stars for the end scene, which is some kind of homage. Yeah, where it's an homage where you're just like in a gun camera point of view. That's not really an homage. It's just kind of insulting both the video game and people that thought they would find something redeemable in this that enjoyed the video game. 4 stars. It's not really that bad of a movie if you take out the garbage characters and the plot. Yeah, if you completely just wipe everything out, it's not that bad. If you're left with just the box cover and the artwork on the box cover of this, then yeah, it's actually not bad. 0.5 star. What a sorry, stupid movie, and offends its source material a little. Yeah, you know, it is kind of difficult to offend a video game source material from the late 90s. Or should I say, actually, early to mid 90s. Yeah, it's hard to offend something like that, something that should be so obscure, because you see, this is not a tie-in with the modern Doom from Bethesda, the Doom that you might know in 2018, 2019. This is actually a tie-in of the first Doom that came out, in the early 90s. It's hard to offend something like that, but this does offend it. Half a star. It's rare that I watch a movie and ask myself, what the hell did I just sit through? This was one of those times. Yeah, and it's probably like that for Karl Urban too, because this is probably the worst Karl Urban film that there is in existence. So if you're a fan of his work, yeah, just know that he's probably afraid to acknowledge he's in this. It's bad. Half a star. Yeah. 2 stars, a definite candidate for so bad it's good. No, it's not. It's not going to be one of those. It's just boring. It's got too much boringness in it for that. 4 stars, actually very underrated, even if it doesn't adapt exactly to the game it's based on. It's an interesting action horror with some fantastic practical effects and very good CGI mixed in. Urban, Johnson, and Pike are all solid in this, and the story is as well. Way too hated. It's hated because it does everything wrong, and it's probably hated because it's just a shameless ripoff of The Predator in a lot of ways. Too many scenes, too much dialogue, ripped off straight from Predator, the first movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I don't know why, because the two are not related, but it just shamelessly attempts to copy it in multiple places. 5 stars. I love this movie. It's a typical game-based movie, action-packed with lots of creature killing. Just a fun movie. Don't expect anything too deep, but if you expected more, you are watching the wrong genre of film. I completely disagree, and obviously you're giving this 5 stars because you're one of those people that believes that if something is seemingly too hated upon on Rotten Tomatoes, you think it's your duty to go in and give it 5 stars to try to tip the scales, to put your finger on the scale. I disagree. This is crap. Half a star. I like the games, but this, watch Aliens better, LA. I don't know what you're referring to, but if you're saying that maybe even the worst Alien versus Predator video game is better than this, you would be right. Despite the bugs in the game, you would be right. 4 stars. Movie was much better than the review suggested. Give it a chance. Decent plot. Fell somewhere between a Resident Evil, Alien, or Predator film. The only fault I found with the movie was the inconsistency of the monsters, but once you realize they are all moody's, it explains itself. Decent action horror film. No, it doesn't explain itself. Yeah, it seems similar to Resident Evil. It doesn't explain itself. It also doesn't explain how Dwayne Johnson's character just becomes the bad guy magically, for no reason. 1.5 stars. Dwayne Johnson was ashamed of making this movie. I'm glad he's aware that he can do better, because this is how you don't make a video game movie. Yeah. 1.5 stars is too generous. Half a star. With a movie that has such a lack in plot, predictable and stereotypical characters, boring dialogue, uninspired action, and above all else, not living up to the video game that came before it at all, it's quite garbage. Yeah, I'll agree 100%. 5 stars, the best movie ever. That's parody comedy there, okay? 1 star. Doom, when referring to the games, is about a brutal killing spree against demonic forces, leaving nothing but a massacre in your path. The universe of the game also serves its fans with twisted backstories and simplistic storytelling that doesn't get in the way, allowing players to experience total savagery with the excitement of blowing away demons with multiple weapons while understanding the reason and purpose of their presence. So when it comes to the movie Doom, well, I don't know. I guess you're trying to say that the video games had a lot more story, backstory. They had a more detailed environment. The original video game from the early 90s, it actually has a more coherent and logical plot and story. Yes, it does. It does, guaranteed. 5 stars. A great action flick that does a fair job of bringing the PC game to the big screen. Great work from the cast and crew. I don't know if that's trying to be funny, but this is just an insult to the first Doom game. And again, that's pretty hard considering that it's considered a very dated and it would be an unappealing game by today's standards. But this insults that, yes. 3.5 stars. One of the best so bad it's good movies there is. Awful, yet cheesy and fun to watch performances. Unrealistic action sequences. One-liners every 5 minutes. If you're in the mood for a cheesy mid-2000s creature feature, Doom is for you. No, it's not. Those one-liners, some of them stolen from Predator, they don't work. Unrealistic action. Well, nobody expected it to be realistic. It's set on Mars. You know that, right? Portals to Mars. There's nothing realistic about that. But this is completely crap. And it's not crap in a way that you can laugh at. So it's not one of those so bad it's good. I disagree. This is 1 star at its best. 4.5 stars. Fun movie. Way better than rated here. Not sure why people don't like it. Really? You're not sure? Okay. 0.5 star, an awful mess. Karl Urban's character was slightly interesting, and that is about it. Karl Urban's slightly embarrassed that you remember he's in this. I'm sure of that. 5 stars. I really liked this movie. If you played the old Doom when it came in the 90s, you will appreciate this movie. I think the critics and the audience had this wrong. Wow. I think if this movie had actually been made in the mid to late 90s, it would have been appreciated more. But again, it would have still been bad, and the gun camera sequence would have been like really stupid too, because it tries to mimic the video game, but it doesn't even mimic the good parts of the video game. So it would have been panned by the Doom fanboys back in the 90s too. It's just a fail, a complete fail. 3 stars from September of 2018. First-person shooter scenes are pretty decent. No. Any like ridiculous no subscription count Twitch streamer has a more exciting Doom game going on than this crap. 1.5 stars. They managed to screw up a Doom movie. It had The Rock and was rated R. Surely they could have made a movie about killing demons fun. But nope, we got a knockoff of the Resident Evil movies and Aliens. Even if you're unfamiliar with the source material, we all know Doom was groundbreaking for its day, opening the floodgates for many first-person shooters to follow. Even watching a playthrough is fun. So how the hell did you make a Doom movie boring? Not many monsters, not much action. Yeah, I agree 100%. The original game is more exciting than this. You can watch a playthrough of the original game and it's way more exciting than this. How do you make it boring? Again, it's like you picked the worst parts of the first game to highlight. Again, if you're in the first game and you're just like not sure how to play a first-person game and you're going back and forth through the hallways looking for a key card to open a door, that's what this movie is like watching. It's very boring. It's shamefully boring. 1 star. He hit rock bottom with this movie. It was doomed from the start. Yeah, those are some good words to put with this. Kind of like one-liners, I guess. 1 star. From a video game that has a lot of action and gore, it's amazing to see how the movie can take a simple concept and turn it incredibly dull. From dull characters, bad writing, and dull action, even if you want to add that first-person shooting scene, I'm still calling it silly and stupid. Yeah, it's just dull. They could have made something more exciting than a bad playthrough of the first game. Even a bad playthrough of the original Doom is more exciting than this. 3 stars. It may be one of his lowest rated movies on this site, but I personally liked this movie. Each time it shows up on TV, it is still a lot of fun to watch. That says something. This is a review from July 15th of 2018. I have a hard time believing this shows up on TV, at least not in the US. I haven't seen it in a long time, and I don't want to see it. 2 stars, run-of-the-mill sci-fi action film based on a video game. No, I'm afraid this is not run-of-the-mill. This is far below that. If you want to see run-of-the-mill, and to me quite boring at times, is Resident Evil. This is not even up to those standards. I'm sorry, it's not. 3.5 stars. It is a good movie in mind, but a lot of other people do not like this movie. Will, the only bad thing is the beginning is cheesy, and you only see 4 demons from Doom. The zombie men, imps, the pink demons, and a Hell Knight. Yeah, you don't even get much in this film. If you're looking for the creatures of Doom, you barely get any of that. You get mostly just sneaking around in dark hallways. You don't even get to see anything. 2.5 stars. So shoot 'em up movie. There was a fun scene near the end where it looks like you were the first-person shooter, plus half a star for The Rock. That said, there is a bunch wrong here. They didn't even try to get a backstory. I guess there used to be humans on Mars a long time ago, or something. I mean, I know it was based on a video game, but even a video game usually has a coherent introduction. The only thing they can't allow, the contagion to make it back to Earth. Yeah, it doesn't really explain it. It does explain a portal, an alien portal was found on Earth, and it goes to, a similar portal on Mars. They don't explain this outpost, if it was created by the modern humans, if it's part alien. They just gloss right over that, and you just hand wave all of that away, and you're dropped right into the mystery of, demonic forces in this research station. It's completely stupid by any stretch of a sci-fi movie standards. Even for a video game movie, this is really bad. 3.5 stars. It is not a great production. However, it takes the viewer to the creepy ambient that Doom is all about. If you like the game, you will probably enjoy the movie. No, like the sneaking around in hallways and dark corridors in this movie is completely boring. That's it. It's boring. It's not scary. It's not suspenseful. It's just flat out boring. 4 stars, really good film with a brilliant storyline. Great choice for actors too. I'll take that is like sarcasm, definitely. 1 star, if in reality US Special Forces are only 10% as A, useless, and B, annoying as this lot, it's no wonder the world hates them. Yeah, I'll stop there and say they tried to do that thing where they put a lot of quirky characters in as the characters. So you see a lot of off-putting and unlikable quirky characters that are just very shallow, and the quirks are their only characters, kind of like sneak around in dark hallways. They tried to do the same thing in The Predator, the newest movie of the Predator franchise, and it also didn't work there. You just take characters that are kind of quirky in a way and like have them do weird things. It doesn't work, it's stupid, and it's the least of this movie's problems, but it is a problem. Let's continue. All that machismo and horse shit. A team of misfits who wouldn't get through basic training, never mind to make the elite, go to Mars, locked and loaded before they even leave the plane, to take on an alien threat. All the usual cardboard cutouts are here. Sexy love interest, gritty conflicted veteran with a past, with said sex pot, smart-ass, rookie, wise-ass, and pervy, obvious casualty. Yeah, what they're trying to say is those quirky characters that are just there to be killed off after they do their one-liners and they make their pervert jokes and whatnot. Completely stupid. Again, this was also tried later in the newest movie, The Predator. I don't know if Shane Black had something to do with this. This is 2005. They're trying to do the same stupid thing again. It's the least problematic thing in this movie. This whole movie is shit. 1.5 star, a clunky and aimless adaptation of a horror game where you strip away the horror and just use the assets to make an action film. Yeah, well, even the assets were no good. If you just wanted to see assets from the Doom in this, you don't get that. It's all dark. The practical effects are kind of like hard to see in the dark, and you don't even get the actual, creature assets from Doom. They just kind of half-ass that too, so it's stupid. 1.5 stars, better than Superman. Not sure which one it's better than. I disagree though. Maybe Superman 4: The Quest for Peace. I don't know. I'd have to watch them back to back on that one. Good question on that one. If you're referring to Superman 4 though, maybe. 3.5 stars, pretty good. Didn't like it until I really paid attention and watched it, but it was all right. Maybe didn't pay attention until you drank a whole 6-pack, because no, it wasn't all right. 1 star, this is just bad. Shame with the cast they had. Yeah, the cast, these actors have been in better things. They're probably all ashamed of this. 1 star, August of 2017, terrible, boring, action-packed video game adaptation movie with the worst CGI I've seen out of Universal and starring The Rock. I played the Doom games and I thought they sucked, and after watching the movie, the Doom franchise, video games included, are doomed in my opinion. The Rock is the only good part of this movie, and this is probably his worst performance as an actor, at least in present day. He's in good movies like Moana and the Fast and Furious movies. all video game movies suck as always. No, not exactly. There are some that are okay. This is the worst of the worst, though. I don't know if it's the worst performance by The Rock. It's the worst script he's had telling him what to do. I would say his performance in another one called The Escape to Witch Mountain. That's pretty damn bad performance-wise. I wouldn't call this his worst performance. It's his worst role. It's his most shameful role, maybe, yes. Um, they're saying that the Doom game itself sucked. Well, the Doom game in its day in the early 90s was revolutionary for video games. That's what it was. That's what its claim to fame is. It's by no way, in today's standards, it's by no means all that great. But in its day, it was the biggest, baddest video game, the most fantastic of all time. People my age, even teenagers at the time, they were blown away by it. And it's been living off that reputation ever since. In today's world, we're just flooded with first-person shooters of every type, of every kind of backstory and theme. So today it's nothing special, but back in the early 90s, even back then, this movie would have been seen as an insult by the people that loved Doom, the video game. So there's that. 5 stars. Never played much of the video games, but this movie did a great job of recreating an experience of playing a really good video game. No, it didn't. I don't know what planet you're living on, but it did not. 4 stars. I don't understand why this movie is rated so low. It is paced perfectly. The character development is awesome. The creatures are original and scary. The acting is pitch perfect. The story arc is great. This is one of the most underrated action movies of all time. Maybe if you're living in a small village in Pakistan or remote region of India, this movie is considered an Academy Award winner, but you need to probably get your hands on more American movies to understand how bad this one really is. 5 stars. I don't know why people are complaining. The monsters looked cool. The feel was scary. They worked hard on it, and I thought it showed. I throw it on every so often when I feel like a scare. People are too quick to complain about anything and everything. Well, if this movie scares you, I don't know who you are, but wow. Don't leave your house. Don't leave your house at night, because you're going to be scared just going on your front porch out in the dark, because this movie's just really dark. That's all that's scary about it. I'm sorry. Half a star. Disgrace to the game. I agree. It's an insult to the Doom game, the original game that this is based on. Here we have it. 19% on the tomato meter, 34% on the audience score. Everybody involved is quite shameful of it, quite embarrassed to be for this to have been brought up. I challenge anybody involved in this to say that they think this is good. Nobody will. They'll go hide when they hear this this word on their resume, these actors. 34% audience score. I don't know how it got so high. I would say 14% on the audience score is more like it. So I'm going to leave this one at that, and I'm going to say I will see you again on the next episode of Rotten Reviews.